What's going on, guys? I am back, and we are talking RLCS season number 3. Finally is here. I like this nice little shot to start. One, it's an octane, so it always looks good. Wheels could use some work, and like the paint, whatever. Anyway, we're back with RLCS season number 3. We're adding another region, Oceanic. Let's actually go over here to the press release that they put out. Yeah, it's been 2 months, yada, 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 flip side one. It looks like it's a very similar format for the North American and European regions. They're going to have an open qualifier once again, but $300,000 in cash. So they're increasing it by 50K. With the Oceanic region coming in, you expect that 50K probably to go to them. So it would probably be a very similar prize pool to the last RLCS. We'll talk more about money in a future video because Sonics is supposed to announce some more information about that tomorrow. So I don't want to get too deep into that, but we'll continue here. North America and the European regions open qualifiers once again, so any team can compete, and then 8 teams from each region will continue on to league play. So it looks like a very similar format. They don't say how many LAN teams are going to make it. I'm assuming 4 are making it from each. Now, once again, I don't have any prior knowledge to this. They don't really include me in the loop on that stuff. That's not really my job. So we'll see what happens with the Oceanic players. They will be at the LAN. So we'll see how many teams actually make it and see how many teams don't. But let's go into the schedule real quick. Go back over here. So this is for North America and Europe. They haven't talked about what the format is for the Oceanic region just yet. But you have to register by February 22nd. It opens February 9th, but realistically, it only matters if you get it in by February 22nd. So that gives you just a little over 2 weeks left to get your teams in, which thank God, because North America, it's honestly pointless to follow right now because everyone keeps switching teams. Lately, it's been a little bit better, but before that, it was just roster shuffle with roster shuffle, which is good because they're trying to find their teams, but it's just hard to follow. But we go into it, qualifiers, the open qualifier, March 4th and March 5th, then March 11th and March 12th. Probably the same format where the top 64 then go into best of 5s instead of best of 3s when it's open. And then we get right into league play. Now, the major difference here is there's an extra week of league play. You see how there's 3 weeks of league play, then the midseason mayhem, and then 2 more weeks. Last time, there was only 4 weeks of league play. So I would expect the season to be drawn out a little bit more. So the live streams will probably be a little bit shorter, just to so people don't have to watch all day. But there still will be a midseason mayhem. We'll see what changes come with that. They'll probably announce that right around week 1. I think that's kind of when they announced the format last time. So we'll see. But then the championships, there's only 1 weekend for championships instead of the 2 weekends last time. So we'll see how that goes. We saw last time it was a little confusing where it would be 3 through 6 battling out for 2 more spots to make LAN, and then it was just about LAN season, so it wasn't as important. Now it looks like it's going to be all on that same day. We'll see how many teams make playoffs. We'll see how LAN season works. I would assume 6 teams make playoffs, but honestly, I have no idea. So probably 6 of 8, and then they just all play on those days to figure out the seeds and who's going to LAN. And then we go to the World Championships. So now this brings me to the Oceanic region. How many teams go to LAN versus, basically how many teams go to LAN and how does that affect how the LAN is played out? So I'm assuming 2 teams. So in my 2 examples, I'm going to be assuming that there's 10 teams at the LAN. And I think either way that this probably will extend the LAN 1 extra day. It'll probably be Friday, Saturday, and Sunday because it's going to be really hard to fit in any more that we do on Saturday or Sunday. So I would expect Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for the LAN to be. But who knows? Maybe it'll just be 2 extremely long days of just Saturday and Sunday. But first, let's go into 10-team double elimination. I don't really like this format too much, and I'll get into that in a second. Basically, I'll pretend the seeds are the 1 seed's EU number 1, then NA is 2, and it goes down the line. And you would think that the Oceanic seeds for purposes here will be 9 and 10. So the number 1 and the number 2 will be 9 and 10. So basically, they would play in this first round of the winner's bracket. Everyone else would have buys. And they would play the worst teams coming out of NA and Europe. That makes sense to an extent. The problem is when you get down to the lower bracket, run into a lot of issues here because basically these teams play out this round, and of course the losers go down here. But the problem is the matches that they play next are versus the top team in each region, and sure they could lose, but let's just say that the top teams win it out, then those two teams are just back here again in the first round of the lower bracket and could still potentially come in last. So even if they finished 1 and 2, they could come in last, while a team that say is the Europe 2 seed versus the NA 3 seed, if they go 0 and 2, they cannot finish in last whatsoever. So I don't think a double elim works out for that region, or for that reason, I should say. And another reason is because, say you take the NA number 1 seed, they've had a lot of issues. Energy both times losing in the first round. They could come in last place by going 0 and 2, while the NA 3 seed, it's impossible, plus the NA 2 seed, it's impossible for them to come in last place. So that really doesn't work out. So I don't think this will be used, just because there's really no way to seed it properly where teams get their rightful buys on both sides of the bracket. So it just doesn't really work out. So I don't think this will be used. So here is my a proposal, I guess you would say, for how the LAN should be played out. Now, once again, this should be a 3-day event, and we go into group play. We have Group A and Group B. They'll probably call them some fancy names, like if this does happen. But the Europe 1 seed, the NA 2 seed, the Europe 3 seed, the NA 4 seed, and the Oceanic 2 seed would be in group number 1. Now, the Oceanic 2 seed would go here because the EU number 1 seed is here, so you would say it's the harder group. And then on the other side, you'd have the NA 1 seed, EU 2 seed, NA 3 seed, EU 4 seed, and the Oceanic 1 seed over here. Two reasons why this works, I think, is... one, it gives teams a lot more games to play. Like, say they do sets of 3 and you just play each opponent in your group. Then every team will play 12 games at the LAN, which I think is a lot more beneficial for pretty much everyone here, so they get a lot more experience. And teams like Genesis, who just come out and go 0 and 6, and they're just shaking their heads after one day and they're done. So at least it'll give each team 2 days to play, and it'll give them 12 games in total. And I think it would be fun for the fans to get to see a little bit more matchups. And plus, with the Oceanic region, we just don't really know where they're going to fit in here. Like, a lot of people are thinking that they're worse than NA in Europe. Some people are thinking they're better than North America. But we don't really know. So if you throw them into these groups, it's a lot more fair to see where they come out of, instead of like, hey, you play the NA 4 seed or the EU 4 seed, but then you have to play the top team, and then like you could easily be bounced pretty early. So we'll see a lot more games this way. Plus, we'll see a lot more wild card, like heroics, basically, because like an Oceanic team can win 2 games out of 3 versus some of these teams, and it could really help their standings going forward. Now, the way I would do it, so there's 20 matches and 3 games each, so it'd be 60 games total between these two groups. One thing for the last LAN, we had about 32 games per day. It was actually exactly 32 games per day, day 1 and day 2, thanks to the bracket reset by Flipside. So this way, I would just split the groups in half, and each team would play 2 opponents of their 4. So on day 1, which would be a Friday, they would each play twice, and that's 30 games total. So I would do like Group A all in a row in the first chunk of Friday, and then Group B all in a row, like a big chunk there. And it's a Friday. Probably won't get as much viewers. Like, it won't be as hype for sure, but it'll be fun to watch. I think it'll still get a lot of viewers. But then day 2 is where it really ramps up, because then we start getting into games that really matter, going into who's clinching spots here or there. Like, of course, all the games matter, but for the most part, people will be focusing on day 2, which would be on a Saturday, where you'd finish off versus your other 2 opponents, and then you would go into a bracket. Now, 3 teams would advance to the bracket stage from each group. Basically, the winners from each group would be the number 1 and 2 seeds in a 6-team single elimination bracket. And so it'd be really important to try and win your group, because then you're guaranteed a top 4 finish. So I think it'd be really exciting to see that finish, plus the 2 and 3 seeds battling out for the 2 and 3 spots. It'll keep the teams like in last even having a shot after day one because they just have to creep up the third. They only have to beat 2 teams. Like, they don't have to go to like the top 2 seeds where it might be impossible if you start off extremely poorly. So it'll keep it pretty interesting on day 2. Day 3, I would just go to best of 7 because there would only be 5 matches. Now, if you want to include the third place game, you would add one more match. Honestly, I don't think a third place game is really needed. They could tie for third place for the money. Like, I think it might bring down some hype if there is one. But still, like, it's more Rocket League, so I can't argue that. And so we'll see either 5 or 6 games. So you would estimate 30 to 36 games on Sunday, which is still right in line with what we've been doing as well. And so we would get basically 30 extra games this way. And if you did the double elim format, you would get some extra games that way too, but it's just extremely confusing for the seeding. And I think viewers can follow group standings a lot better than the weird bye system that the lower bracket would have versus the winner's bracket. So I would say go with like a group system. We'll see a lot more matchups. It won't be teams like, oh, maybe Energy just had a bad matchup versus PZ. They'll have a lot more games to play, and we'll actually see like where these teams kind of like stand out, or like Energy because they played Flipside both times, like in the lower bracket. How far could they have gone if they didn't have to do that, or something like that? So things like that might help like a little bit here. Basically, I would do so the EU 1 seed and NA 1 seed. I would say this is placements for the group. Then the NA2 seed would play the NA3 seed from Group B, and then the EU3 seed would play the EU2 seed. And of course, this is probably not how it would work out because we've seen at every single LAN that it doesn't matter what seed you are. It's been crazy results every single time. So, but it would be fun to watch because like a Group B 2 seed versus a Group A 3 seed just to mix it up. Now, you might have some rematches going into the next round, which kind of unfortunate, but at the same time, build some story like, hey, they only played 3 games last time. That's not a ton of games, but if someone got a 3-0, stuff like that. So I think that could really help, but again, this is only if 2 teams go from the Oceanic region. I honestly have no idea how many teams are going. I would assume it's either 2 or 4 because you probably don't want an odd number of like 9 teams going or something like that, like just 1 team from the Oceanic region. But yeah, but basically, that's how I see it going for the LAN. I honestly have no prior knowledge, and we'll see what type of format we actually get at the LAN. Let me know what you guys think will happen with the Oceanic teams. Can they beat the other regions? Do you like a double elimination format better? Do you like a group stage format better? Do you think the LAN should be extended more days or cram everything in on a Saturday or Sunday? Just let me know in the comments, and I want to see what ideas that you guys come up with. And I can't talk today at all. It's really rough. But yeah, that'll do it for this video, guys. Thanks so much for watching, and yeah, we'll see you maybe tomorrow if the Psyonix news is big about the money situation. But until then, guys, later.